somehow still keeping with it pretty solidly, despite the low AC, which you love to see. But that could all change in an instant, especially depending on what we end up coming across over the next little while in the dungeon. Fingers are crossed at the very least. Let's let you come to us, friend. Hello, hello. And perfect. Now is where I start to question myself a bit. We have been dumping everything into strength, but at the end of the day, we don't get that much of a market improvement past a certain point. We're already strong enough to wear all of the heaviest armors, or at least pretty close. We can always pop up there by the time we get to gold dragon scales or some crystal plate. And so, if we want to continue going with combat, not worry about spells too much, or at least nothing beyond the kind of quick and easy auxiliary spells that are used for more their utility and stuff like that, then it's oftentimes a better idea to actually throw into dex instead, get slightly better at dodging retaliation attacks and stuff like that. A bit more of a well-rounded base at the very least. So maybe for this level, we'll go into dex because we are severely lacking in defensive capabilities across the board, so it might be nice to have something else on our side in that department. We'll keep her going here. Hopefully we keep repelling those spikes, because not being able to move is definitely a bit of a pain in the butt for us. Overall here, not going horribly. This is just Tengu Warrior, so we don't have to be too worried about all of the elements they can bring to bear. There we go. Let's keep heading out throughout the rest of our D14 here. Still hoping for some kind of treasure along the way. And you know, it's not an artifact ring with resist poison like I was secretly wishing in my mind, but condenser vein, pretty up there in my books. Definitely happy to see. So, now we are a bit more free in terms of what we drop to the floor for the time being. In fact, let's just drop our enchant weapon scrolls. We don't need to be carrying them around at all hours of the evening, as it were. Not too bad. The rest of the dungeon going fairly smoothly. I'm still not very excited or pleased with our options. Going into Swamp or Snake without resist poison, again, while possible, is not ideal to say the least. But we will see. There's still a floor to go here. I'm happy to be surprised. Let's bring you back with us, friend. I would like to not be paralyzed, even though we did end up being paralyzed for a quick round there against my better wishes. With that, we'll just keep her going. Oh, hello. Oh gosh. All the strong buddies here. Wait, is this a shapeshifter? Ice Dragon was struck by lightning. No, it's not a shapeshifter, unfortunately. Would have been too easy, eh, game? Well, that is fine. We'll instead start fighting these two for a little bit, but then I'm actually going to take some steps back, letting our clouds do some of the work. That's always nice with Quaslaw, is we do have the option to just retreat, take a few steps out of the conflict here. As long as we're not slowed in any way, then everyone will just run through the danger in order to get to us, or at the very least we'll end up giving ourselves an extra space of room. So that's always an option that I would appreciate as well. Hello, friends. How many heads do you have? 6. Okay, that's not the end of the world, but still not ideal. Don't really want to fight all of you while completely surrounded. Don't think I'm able to sneak in a particularly beautiful ice blast here, unfortunately. I'd like to be able to curve the bullet around a little bit and hit the majority of these buddies without doing ourselves as well. Hey, it is what it is. So let's instead maybe just start taking some steps back, much like we mentioned earlier. It's always a nice little bit of damage being applied to all of our enemies as they try their best to follow us. Unfortunately, there are some ranged options, as well as the fact that these flame elementals are faster than I would otherwise like, but still a very decent start to our combat. Much better than it looked like, at least at first blush, walking into a room just absolutely packed to the brim with monsters. And come here, you son of a gun. Nobody can escape our roll. Ooh, Ring of Poison Resistance. Hey, again, not the artifact that I might have been wishing my dearest for, but it's definitely good enough for me. Let's drop maybe the Scarf of Resistance. Let's drop the Broadaxe for now. We don't need to have that in our inventory at all times. We can instead pick up that Resistance to Poison, giving us an option at the very least for when we move on to the S branches. It's not fun when the 8-headed Hydra gets gifted with Simulacra after death here, which is what I'm pretty sure that ability the Necromancer cast is. But apparently we're able to wait it out at the very least. And then we get surprised from behind by a sudden ugly thing appearing, which isn't great, but hopefully we can deal with that. We also have a Tengu warrior come into view wearing the ring Falulana. Wizardry, Arlec, 3 pips of RF. That's pretty awesome. Dex -2, not the best, but not the end of the world either. And stealth is pretty useless, but that is overall still a pretty solid get. As long as we don't die here, right? But there we go. We get the Hydra to step into a cold cloud. That's all we could possibly ask for. Then we can just take everyone out one by one as they walk through our clouded doorway. You love to see it. And now I immediately do want to pick up this ring. Man, why do we have too much good stuff? Shouldn't complain about it, but it's hard to decide what to throw away. Or I'm just missing some obvious useless crap that I'm carrying around for no good reason. More likely to be the case, but unfortunately there's just nothing we can do about it. Look closer to inventory? Nah, I don't think that's an option. Also, this room has a barding in it. So now we really don't want to die stupidly in the next couple minutes here, because it's just +0, but at the end of the day, even a +0 barding here gives us a base armor rating of 4, so that is fantastic. Oh me oh my. Well, for what's next to drop here, I guess the 2-handed axe can go for now. And let's pick up that barding, immediately put that son of a gun on, and that puts us in a much better place moving forward defensively here. You can also check this shop, hoping for something good, maybe? Not so much. Just really hoping for me like a Broadaxe of vampirism, but probably asking for a bit too much there. An unidentified scroll, eh? What are we missing right now? We can do a quick /dash to get into this screen. And this is either acquirement, brand weapon, fear, or silence. A lot of those are exceptionally useful for us. So I'm tempted to just read this one off the cusp. The one thing that I will want to do there is actually take some steps back to where we dropped this Broadaxe. Because if it is branding, I probably want to throw it on this Broadaxe if I had to guess here. Can also now actually throw away that dagger. It does have the corrosive resistance on it, but resistance to poison we have settled in another manner. And let's see, ooh, scroll of acquirement. So still fantastic, don't get me wrong. We have the +7 ring mail of the Game of Life, classic. Manual of evocations, also pretty solid. So let's see, if we examine the +7, AC would increase by 3, and it would give us regen. Encumbrance is less too. I almost have to go for that. It's tempting to go for the Manual of Evocations just because of how much I love that skill, and because we do have a pretty good complement of items for it as well. But at the end of the day, can I say no to the Game of Life? It's better than what we're wearing in every way. Probably looks a bit fancier too, so let's do it. We'll acquire that. Immediately strip down out of the plate armor and throw it on the ground. Switch over to this fancy plate. There we go. Between that and the barding, we're definitely looking like a fancy horse buddy here. Let's see how that takes things. Huh. That was interesting. We saw an enemy here, and then I pressed tab to auto move towards them, and we opened the door. Not what I would have done, but I guess we just have to take whatever the auto fight gives us. That's generally the reason why you don't want to trust tab fighting beyond a certain point. A lot of times it will put you into troublesome situations without giving you the option or the slightest inkling that it's even going to happen in the first place, but no worries here. We're ready to take whatever the world can throw at us. I'm hoping to take out the Demonologist relatively quickly here. Relatively quick game. Please cooperate. There we go. Game's always trying its best to make me look stupid here. Does a good job of it too. At least that's the excuse that I give. Ooh, and there's a ring here. What'd it be? A ring of positive energy and intelligence. So we were just remiss at our lack of negative energy resistance in a previous room. So it's probably worth carrying around, I'd guess. I think then we will drop this broad axe once more, switch it out for the ring, just in case we run into something right away here with some more horrifying dark tendencies. Oops. Hello? Rampage. Kind of keep forgetting that I have Rampage. But that is all good. This is a nice test against a Warlord because we were unable to continually dive deeper into our Orc section of the game, just because there was a Warlord with some Goonies, but knowing that the fight doesn't go horribly does give me slightly more desire to try our luck in that department. Have to see how the next little while goes, to say the very least. Leave all those things lying around for now. Rampage sometimes helping us, sometimes screwing us over. It's one of those things that I just have to be slightly more aware that I am currently using. And then it can definitely be swung into a bit more of an advantageous system. Floating eye, if you want to come to me, please, that would be fantastic. Apparently the eyes just keep on getting absolutely eviscerated by our storm clouds. Not that I'm complaining whatsoever. And now, let's bring the rest of you on a lovely jaunt, shall we? It was a good opportunity there to see just how much water slows enemies too, because I was curious if I was making the wrong decision by going around in the L shape instead of the hypotenuse, as it were, but it seems to be fairly even across both ends. And now we are running into our punishment for the strategy that I decided to employ here, because unfortunately I wasn't accounting for enemies coming in from behind. I thought we'd done a slightly better job in clearing away all that space. And instead we're just going to be duking it out here against the majority of the floor. This might even be a time where it's worth the Condenser Bane. Can throw this out there. Just try and get some extra damage levied against the monsters outside of our reach. And in fact, that's doing absolute wonders for us. You love to see it. And we should be able to pretty much just tab our way through the rest of the fight here. It's also sweet that we never have to worry about any kind of clouds, of course, thanks to Dee looking down on us from up on high, keeping us safe. Love to see it. And that's got to be getting fairly close to the end of the floor here. Definitely have to ignore that, right? We lost our fire resistance. It's actually in a slightly worse spot against the Efreet than the last one that we came up against. But all is well. In the end, at the very least. Now let's keep exploring, hoping for some better shops here. I mean, Spelltome's not the end of the world. I guess we could even do a quick look. Debilitation could have something slightly useful from a utility standpoint. Slow, maybe a little bit, but not quite what I was hoping for. Also check the burglary for swiftness, which we already have. Invisibility, which is probably a bit out of our pay grade here in terms of spellcasting. Pass wall, though, might be nice in the future. Can even just mark that one off. Hey, Torinski, how's my day going? Hope all is well and I'm staying safe. Yeah, no, definitely going fantastically. At least as well as things can in this day and age, but thank you so much for the well wishes. It is absolutely lovely to see you here as well, Player React. Always nice to see a familiar name dropping by. So I hope that you're having a great day as well. Okie dokie, I'm not sure if that was a random pack of fiery beasties or if we have our named great unique coming up here in just a moment. Only one way to tell, really. I would think that they would be hanging out a little bit closer, so maybe, just maybe, random pack? Ah, no, there he is. Hey Azrael, how's it going? Of course, never a dull moment, right? So here's where our lack of fire resistance is absolutely brutal. We are unfortunately making far too much noise to try and completely retreat without being noticed. But we could at the very least stay outside of hittable range and just try and escape. I mean, Israel is susceptible to cold, so that does give us the opportunity to just try and blast the crap out of him with our Ice Blast wand, and maybe that will work out. So let's switch over to our Scarf that gives us a little bit of fire resistance. We could actually, now that I'm thinking about it for more than a second, also switch over to this ring instead. And actually that's probably a better idea. So let's switch back to the cloak, hoping he doesn't pop around the corner while we're changing. Never want to be caught with your pants down. But there we go, in a slightly better position to take on Azrael. Well, still not perfect, to say the least. And then let's just start blasting. Yeah, that damnation also hurts. Kinda was hoping you wouldn't use that. Let's stick to the fire guns, shall we, friend? But we'll just keep doing our back and forth here. We seem to be ahead of the curve in terms of overall damage being dealt, so I'll take that. One more Ice Blast? Hey, not too bad. And that's a nice amount of experience. Wait, Ice Magic is being trained. Oh no, when did I do that? Huh, very strange. Follow of Quaslal. I wonder if stealth is an option here. Stealth was never an option. We're too proud for that. We are loud and proud, making our way through the dungeon. We don't care who hears us. Ooh, a Ring of Slaying, eh? That's kind of tempting. In general, I like to lean towards the defensive side of capabilities in general in the game. But 4 points of evasion versus 4 points of slaying right now. I mean, that evasion isn't getting us a whole lot. And if we're just able to kill things faster, I mean, the best defense is good offense, right? Game, why you gotta give me all the hard decisions here right off the start of our day? I might do so. Oops, that's not the right ring. And I guess we don't even necessarily have to switch out that one in particular. We could instead get rid of our resist corrosion for now, keep it around as more of a conditional item that we can switch back to if the times deign it to be so. And instead we can have both the evasion and the slaying. Isn't that a nice treat? Don't have to make up our minds. Oh, and I should actually definitely roll towards the glowing brain right away. This monster is a pain in the butt if they start summoning in all their friends. Perfect. That's exactly how we'd prefer to deal with the problem. And then let's just keep going here. Keep exploring the rest of our floor, even though it's looking to be fairly straightforward here for the most part. Especially since I think we already emptied out a lot of those vaults on that side, just due to the amount of noise we were making and whatnot. And, okay, now that's a bit of a harder choice. Dang it, inventory. Why are you so severely lacking in space here? I never have enough room for all my crap. It's too reminiscent of real life with my hoarding tendencies. Well, if you're gonna play it like that, game, then I guess we'll drop the Scarf of Resistance. We have a decent amount of other quick swaps for the time being, so that's not a horrible option there. Potion shop could be huge. No haste for me, game. Guess we're not that good of a friend yet with the RNG gods here, but that's cool. We make do with whatever is handed to us. We don't complain. Even though I'm eyeing that artifact ring now, and that's looking kind of nice. Let's hope that it turns out to be the case. Now we're confused, so we could chug a Curie and get ourselves out of this, but I think we can fight through it, and indeed that does seem to be the case. And we find here a new ring of resist corrosion that's better than the last one. Ooh, ah. So that's definitely what we will pick up if we ever do want some resistance to said corrosion, but for the time being, I think it will have to hit the ground, or stay on the ground, rather, as we find another artifact mace that doesn't interest us too much. And bada boom, bada bing, that should be the entire floor, and indeed it is. No idea what's going on with this vault in the center. Seems really wacky. I don't see any monsters, and there are teleports everywhere, so it almost seems like it would be safe to go in here. What are you trying to trap me into, game? Because I know most of those vaults are absolute nightmares. So even if it looks not too tricky, I don't know. Not too sure about that one, but we did clear down to the end of our standard dungeon here, which we love to see. Not too much trouble, all things considered. And so now it's potentially back to the last floor of Lair. We could head over to Orc instead, seeing as how we might be slightly better built to take that on. Or we can switch off to our resistance to poison ring and start making some headway in our S branches. I think my vote for the time being is to first head to Orc and at least take another peek, see how bad things were. It is mostly this warlord here, even though a sorcerer is a bit of a pain in their own respect. 43% chance to paralyze us. Not great, to say the least, not great. We could, of course, reduce that slightly by switching out our evasion for a little bit of willpower here, and that should bring it down to... What was it before that we saw? It was like 16%? Down to 14%, so even better. Well, in that case, I think I'm slightly more prepared. Let's head down, come back up. We can even just bring a batch with us, chase them through our clouds a bit, which is a strategy that I think I was kind of forgetting about when we first came across this gate, or I guess we weren't quite as devout follower of Quaslal, so maybe not the same efficacy in our first attempt, but I'll take it. Also interesting, another warlord, eh? Fun, cut a couple of priests, the Orc Sorcerer. Tempted to just blast out some condenser vein here, and in fact, I think I might do so. Seeing as how we're going to make a lot of noise and draw enemies to us, we might as well be laying on the hurt as much as possible here. Hey, Catcher Bear. Things are going pretty well to start out here. Haven't immediately piloted the run into a horrifyingly stupid death. Not to say it can't happen. There's still time, of course. But it's at least a half-decent start to our day, so can't complain in that department. And otherwise, things are going all right. It's nice to see you around again. I hope you're having a fantastic day here. And all the friends are coming in. Unfortunately, our clouds didn't have quite the all-encompassing area that I was originally hoping for. Kind of assumed that enemies would be kind of a bit more dumb about this and come up straight at us, but unfortunately, these dang old orcs have some manner of brain in them. They will instead walk around the giant clouds of flame, like a bunch of silly buddies. And so instead, we'll use the stairs to our advantage here and just try and limit our fights as much as possible to whatever we think we're able to take on. In fact, if I can take the sorcerer up and separate them from their summon, that is perfectly ideal, especially since their summon was corroding the absolute crap out of us. And now I'm thinking that that is the turning point for the floor here, and we can start picking up after ourselves, grabbing all of that good loot. And clearing the floor, perfect. And let's see, Orc 2 scares me a little bit, just in terms of if we get too many high priests or something like that, we don't have amazing options for taking out a summoner. But I do believe we're at least in a good enough spot here to begin the adventure. We can always bail out the moment things start to look a little bit too brutal here. Hello, friends. Hello. Perfect. Do I ever plan on doing a full run at some point in the future? Actually, yeah. So I briefly mentioned at the start of the stream here, before everyone showed up, but you're giving me the perfect opportunity to plug it again. And so in fact, this Tuesday, in just a couple of days here on the 28th, I've decided to throw in an extra stream. I've been putting off, or trying to find a good time rather, to do a bit of a late celebration for passing 100 followers here on Twitch. And so I thought that why not pop it in on my birthday? That would be a fun way to celebrate a couple things at once with all of you lovely folks. So in just a couple of days here, we're going to be starting on some 15 rune runs run attempts rather, seeing how that treats us. And as part of that, I did want to ask anyone who's interested and would like to see a specific combo being played to give suggestions, whatever you'd like to see, and I will happily have a bit of direction when we start jumping into those, because I can never make up my mind what combo I want to play. If it's actually up to me and I'm not just going down the list like we are now, it's so easy when I can just do it in order and don't have to think too hard about it. But thought it might be fun to take some viewer suggestions, see what people want to see played, especially to that stage in the game, and have some good fun with it. As we're just getting absolutely smote to hell here on our run back to the stairs, but just enough health to make it back in one piece. And so the stair dancing continues once more. Fortunately, I don't like to abuse stair dancing too much just on a personal level, but at the end of the day, we will do what we have to do to survive here. And if we're making a lot of noise with Quaslaw, it's a nice way of mitigating some of the overwhelming force that comes to bear against us. We'll have to see how that goes. We've only ever managed 2 15 runes. Both were Deep Elf Blasters. Wow, Coville, that's actually impressive in my mind, because they're one of the combos that I actually find a bit harder to play. Even though it's been a long while since I did so I'm speaking out of my butt a little bit. But the low health definitely causes some issues. I guess the ability to just blast cast everything, probably get like Lich Form and stuff like that online as well, definitely does its fair share in terms of survivability. So I'm happy to revisit that. But yeah, if that's something you'd want to see again, see how I handle it, then I'd be more than happy to try that out as well. Catcher, you mentioned awesome, can't wait to see my knowledge in the game come out in full. Hopefully I can do a half-decent job, because there definitely are a lot of little things to remember in the 15 runs here, and it's been a little bit since I attempted one, but I am excited to definitely get into that section of the game. It was so tempting to do so on our Knoll because we were just in such a solid position overall on that run, but at the end of the day, this series is about just winning, and we are instead going to relegate that to another time and place where we can have some fun with it and see how far we can go. So I hope to not disappoint too much in that department, but I'm sure we'll have a good time of it regardless. Controlled Blink was so busted before it got deleted. See, that's something I think I'm going to have to go back and play some previous versions, because I played in the Controlled Blink version a decent amount, but I never took advantage of it, which just seems kind of silly to me. So that could be something that I need to check out in the future, because I do remember, yeah, hearing about just how broken it was in general. It seemed like a fun way to make it through the end of the game, especially if you had Controlled Blink and Absolute Zero running together. It seemed like a pretty killer combo. And oh, they crawled over the corpses of a lot of their brothers. So, yeah, a bit morbid what we do here is we stair dance and just create absolute piles of bodies at the bottom of a stairwell. Try not to think about it too hard. All the brutal actions that we're taking against these fantastic orcs who are, I know they're evil in a sense. They're against us and they're in some way incensed by the Orb of Zot to maybe remain here and take care of adventurers, but they were just living their life, man. We came down here and ruined their freaking day. And hey Brain, how's it going? Hope you're having a fantastic day here. Always nice to see you around. If I can survive centaurs, turn you into an early pincushion, deep elf aptitude, so that you get some super strong spells really early. Yeah, no, I'm excited to get our elf attempts in the near future here, as we're slowly but surely making our way through the species lists, and even in this series alone. But that definitely makes a whole lot of sense. Those higher level spells do absolute wonders in terms of your survivability, just by virtue of being able to absolutely murder anything that comes up against you. Brand weapon mandatory on your sad unbranded mace. You are right about that. It sucks because it's a bit of an admission that we may not go with axes in the end, but it is hard to turn down a +8 evening star now. So let's see, we found, let's do enchant W. We have 6 enchant weapon scrolls, so if I was really desperate to force an axe, which I'm not necessarily too obsessed with necessarily, we could do that instead, but it is tough to turn up, hey? So if we take another look here, brand weapon 340, we could also still buy the scroll of acquirement too, which might be a nice get. On top of that, we'd still have enough money to buy a few more haste potions as a nice way of keeping ourselves alive in the near future against any kind of bigger threats that might pop out of the woodwork at us. So, with that in mind, let's go about this in order. I think I want to buy the scroll of acquirement, so we'll definitely still have enough money afterwards. And then I want to read that to see if there are any options that might supersede whatever plans we currently have in place. +1 Storm Dragon Scales, probably not the worst, but still not something that truly interests me. We at least have our lek that we need right now and all that kind of stuff. We'll probably switch into like Gold Dragon at some point, but we'll see how the tables turn. Ring of Protection, also we have too many rings right now. And finally are looking okay in the AC department thanks to the barding we picked up, so it's most likely looking like a manual of throwing from me. It's a nice way of fighting against the horrible aptitudes that we have as a species, and throwing is one of my favorite go-to ranged options for a melee character, especially since if we get javelins throwing at a good clip and dealing a nice amount of damage, that gives us the smite attacks that we need to actually take on summoners in the future here. 800 gold to acquire 1,000 gold for 200 gold. When you put it that way, how could we say no? That's just good business. But in all seriousness here, I think we will go with the manual of throwing, seeing as how it's something that doesn't take up an inventory space and will pay dividends in the future of our run here. Makes it nice and cheap to at least get those first few levels sorted out, so that is lovely. And now it's time for the brand weapon. And we can all cross our fingers together, hoping that we don't get the Chaos brand, as foretold. I would really love, I mean, Vampiric I like even more on axes, but wouldn't be the end of the world on an Evening Star. Venom would fall off pretty quickly here, especially since we have to go fight Snake pretty soon, but still not the end of the world. Here goes nothing. Brilliant Flash of Wild Light, and we get Vorpal. So that's actually pretty solid because we don't have to worry about enemy resistances whatsoever, and instead just get a nice little plus to the amount of damage on top. Especially with such a high damage or high base damage weapon as this, that percentage increase in damage is going to do a decent amount for us, so you love to see it. And then, let's see, there's the Fear, and there are 3 haste potions all told. I think I'm going to just buy the 1 haste for now and leave the rest up for future purchases. We can also buy that Fear Scroll just to give us another escape. Oh wait, 3 Fear Scrolls. Oh, I'm not even paying attention. That was a much better deal. I was a little bit confused by the price, but I was willing to pay almost anything for a good escape in our future. In that case though, I'm going to actually drop the Ring of Evasion. We won't have to worry about switching back and forth from that. And we are looking slightly better suited up for any horrifying things that happen in the future. You've never been clear on how much damage Vorpal is versus Ice and Fire, you just know Elect is really nice. So yeah, I believe that Ice and Fire gives something like a 25% bonus in that elemental type of damage. Vorpal, I think, is 12.5, so it's half the damage boost, but elementalless. That's a weird thing to say quickly, doesn't sound like I'm saying the word I'm trying to. So yeah, it is a slightly lesser, but of course makes up for it by being generally applicable to everyone, but I believe it's a 12.5%. And then Elec, on the other hand, actually behaves differently. So on a really slow swinging heavy weapon, you don't necessarily want an electric brand. Well, it's great for there being very few monsters with resistance to it. It unfortunately is just a set amount. But that's what makes electric so incredible on something like a quick blade, because every time you're hitting with the quick blade, it's dealing that flat electric damage every time. But definitely is one of the better choices in general still, even if just for the resistance's argument. And Vorpal is +1 to max damage, divided by 3 each swing. Okay. That's definitely a much more clear way of putting it. I might be working with old info to say the very least. But as a general rule of thumb, about half is effective, I believe, as the Fire and Ice at the very least. And now, I think it's time to start heading in to one of our S branches. We're at full Pips of Piety with our god, which means we have plenty of opportunity to just call in disaster areas as need be. Nice amount of damage to just generally apply across the entire screen, or most of the screen at the very least. And so, let's start with Snake Pit.